This week on the show, photographer Craig Colvin. I'm photographer Brian Fisher.
And I'm model Roxanne Kelly.
And this is Model Photography Showcase.
And we're back with another episode from our old database.
The classic episodes keep rolling in. This is Craig Colvin. Craig Colvin is one of the most prolific and artistic photographers we know, just a gem. Mm-hmm. And this episode comes from late 2013, and I think everybody's going to love it. So
I agree.
Without further ado, here is episode 4 of Model Photography Showcase.
Enjoy.
Hey, Roxanne, how are you doing?
Great. How are you doing, Brian?
Great. Our guest today is Craig Colvin. How are you doing, Craig?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
We're glad to have you.
We're thrilled to have you. We have been a fan of your work for some time.
And such a variety. I love it.
Yeah, you are a master of the multi-genre photography.
Which is rare, actually. Among really great photographers, normally they specialize in just one genre that they really rock. But you have mastered quite a few.
Well, I do it basically so I don't get bored. Sticking with one genre, I tried that for a while and found I was just shooting the same thing over and over again and decided I'm going to branch out a little.
There is nothing like leveraging attention deficit disorder.
Exactly. Use it to your advantage.
So we're going to roll right on over into images. The first of your images is mildly explosive.
Yes, it is.
How do you make that affect the light?
Well, I'll tell you a little story behind this. I tried several different techniques for doing this with this same model. She actually said that she wanted to do a shoot like this. We originally tried steel wool, and she ended up with second-degree burns all over her body.
Oh.
I like her already.
Yeah, and she said, keep going, we got to get the shot. But we didn't get any really good shots for that one. So I researched it a little more. We ended up using, this is an angle grinder with cold roll steel pushed up against the angle grinder. And it's a long exposure in order to cover the entire body.
And that means that she has to stand perfectly still.
That's correct.
And for anybody who's going to try this, the cold roll steel is important because it is quite hard. That means the particles are very small and have a very small mass and therefore will not burn the person they hit.
That's correct. We've tried other steels, stainless steel, hot roll steel, and they do burn.
Yeah, the particles are too big.
Right.
It's just beautiful. It is that one of the things that I when I got to looking at this, because as previously mentioned in the podcast, I enjoy a girl that actually is shaped like a girl. Mm-hmm. The way that the sparks sort of hit and deflect, you actually end up accentuating her hips more than they are in reality.
Right. That's correct.
That's pretty cool. If you follow the line of her actual shape, which looks like this, you'll see that the sparks give you this, and I really, really appreciate the effect. On to our next picture. This model is in sort of an ecstasy expression. It's quite beautiful. Tell us about this, and I quote, model.
Well, so this is actually a photographer friend of mine. She and I rented this studio and decided we were going to go check out the lighting there, and she was going to model for me. And this was trying a natural, using natural light coming through the windows in the studio. And she just got in this pose, and I snapped the picture and just said that was gorgeous.
It's beautiful. Her expression, the angle on her face, the lighting on her lips, everything is phenomenal.
Has she done some modeling or acting?
No modeling at all.
Well, she needs to start now.
Yes, she does. She's actually very self-conscious, and just because I was a friend of hers, she kind of let go and gotten some very nice posing.
You know, it's one of these things that I've run into a few times where you see somebody who obviously is beautiful, and you want to go, no, really, you need to go ahead, put on that, dress or bikini or whatever, and let me take some pictures because we should capture this. And yet, you know that this person is going to go through their life and they're never going to have a decent picture. They're gonna hold up a snapshot when they're 70 and go, I was fairly pretty, where they could have held up something that a photographer has done properly and gone, I was awesome. And,
That's how I feel every time I shoot with you, Brian.
Oh, thank you. Oh, this classic pinup with Rosemary.
I love it. She had too many clothes on to begin with. Look at that clothesline.
Exactly. We went something in the background just besides the plain white background, and with just a few clothes, it didn't look quite enough. So we added some more.
So is this a white drape shot?
Yeah, this is it's just a white seamless background. High key lit. All my pinups I use this lighting setup. It's 4 lights, 2 on the background, 2 on the model. With big soft boxes up. 45 degrees on each side of the model.
Pretty stock standard stuff.
Did you add the clothes after?
No. Actually, we did that during the shoot. So not much post-processing on this particular shot.
Very cool. I love hearing that.
She was at one of my events some years back, which might have been where you met her. I'm not sure.
That was, as a matter of fact, yes.
But I have to tell you, I only met her the one time, and she seemed just like a doll. She was, she's not the tallest, not the shortest, not anything, but her personality popped. And, literally sitting there at the registration table, I was like, Rosemary B. must work with in future. And I'm sad to say I never did.
So, yeah, she was, she's been my muse, actually. She's very creative. We've probably done 6 or 7 shoots together, and she'll come up with, over half the ideas we end up shooting.
That's great. Whose ideas was this one?
Doing pinup was her idea. The tub was mine.
I love it.
Very good. I've been eyeballing one of those big horse troughs and thinking, I need to own one of those for the moment.
You need to rent it. I'd rent it from you.
Oh, good. Oh, you mean rent it out?
Yeah, rent it out.
I'll get right on that. That goes along with some of my other things that I've been working on. This image is gorgeous. I picked it over some of its very similar images in your portfolio because it is just the overall pose is very creative. Not seeing her face, which adds a little element of mystery, and then her geometry is really cool.
Right.
I like it.
So this is part of a series I'm doing of these reflection photos. And I explained to him kind of the basics of what I'm looking for as far as posing. I want them to mostly be implied and not see their face, and and keep their body in a single plane. So hands and feet kind of at the same distance from the camera. And this was a pose she came up with, and I was, ecstatic with it.
Sometimes poses just feel right. Not comfortable, but right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this looks like it felt right.
Right. Now, I did have her, adjust her hands a little bit and her feet just to have kind of more symmetry left to right. But, most of it she came up with.
This is one case where the model that is kind of long and lanky really shines when you're doing this sort of geometric design. Mm-hmm. I've got a model friend down in Santa Barbara that I should probably send to you.
That'd be great.
That would be Sharon Hutchins, who's fabulous, long, thin. I don't want to say anything like spidery, but that kind of, she has that ability kind of to just fold up. It's great. So
for most of this series, I've actually started going with dancers or have a dance background because they're, very body aware and can get those geometric patterns and shapes that I'm looking for.
And probably more flexible.
Right. Exactly.
So here's Rosemary again. I picked this picture because I think I was standing behind you when you took it. Because I'll swear I remember this.
Yes. So this was at the Portfolio Jam several years ago. Let's see, it says 2009. Yeah. So, and that was where I met Rosemary. I had actually been talking to her before the Portfolio Jam about working with her, and we just had never actually done so. So when I saw she was going to be at the jam, we made a point of, finding each other and did quite a bit of shooting together. And I really love the lighting on this. The sunset. It was foggy in the background.
Mm-hmm.
I used a speed light in a softbox to light her up from the front, and yeah, she came up with a great pose.
It's a really nice image.
Yeah, when the fog rolled in, I remember thinking, some of the photographers that are here are going to be like, well, putting the camera away, and some of the people are going to be like, cool, fog. And sure enough, I was right. There were a half of the people that were there, their images just stopped at exactly that time. And then I saw that there were people who kept shooting, and some of the best work of the day came out of that.
Right. I love a foggy day. I will always pick foggy over any other day.
Especially full direct sun.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Seen enough of that.
Okay, so this next one is really cool. It looks like she's trying to escape, and maybe you caught her in the shower and she's looking to get out and the door isn't opening.
What exactly is the membrane you used for this?
Yeah.
So this is it's a white lycra type material, stretchy, stretched on a frame. It's a 8 feet by 6 feet frame, and it's just stretched across it. This is completely backlit, so there's a white seamless behind her, and the lights are bouncing off the seamless and coming back through the material.
So you get this sort of, because I was actually looking at that thinking it must have some sort of giant softboxes, because you have some harsh lines, but you also have this really soft transitions in the light.
Mm-hmm.
And the combinations make it a really, it makes you look 2-3 times and decide, how is that done?
Right. So, and actually it takes there's a lot more 3D to this in real life than it looks like in the photograph. I mean, she's really pushing into that lycra to get that effect.
Yeah, I was thinking it was either that or that it had you got the lights really off to the side, but I couldn't really make it out. It's interesting. It must have been a little cold that day because her she has definition there around the chest area.
I love how uncomfortable that came out.
Oh, sorry. This is really cool.
This image is so neat. I love the angles. I love the triangles. You did it. You grabbed that triangle that your eyes automatically go to the triangles between her legs and her stomach and her... we talked about this before, that if you put 3 triangles across in a line, this one, and this one, you will just suck people in and make them happy. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you've got the overarching, I'm a sucker for the square cropping.
Right. So this was actually, she was on a wooden beam that was painted black on one side. And it goes to right about where her hand ends.
Okay.
And then I filled in the rest with black below. And it was at probably a 25-degree angle.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not this steep. And then in post, I just rotated the image to get it to be a 45.
Very cool.
I wonder if it was difficult to stay up. Sometimes I feel like having a pose like this, you're already feeling a little bit off balance, and then putting yourself onto a beam, I bet that was, and a 25-degree angle, I bet that was a challenge for her.
Well, it was. I mean, the beam is fairly wide. It's probably, I think it's 10 to 12 inches wide. Mm-hmm. So there's enough room to fit the knees on and all that.
That's good.
And because it looks much harder because of the 45-degree angle I've done in the crop. Mm-hmm. In the actual, it wasn't that steep of an angle, and I think it was fairly easy for her to hold.
Okay. Well, she's an excellent model too. I love the way her use of her hands and her feet.
Right. She's another one who's very aware of her body and just does some awesome poses.
Very nice.
on to the next image here. And again, we're back to triangles. I grabbed this because of the use of the color temperature of light. There's these 4 distinct groups. The blue, the sort of very warm up top. She is one tonal structure, and then on either side, she's framed by this 4th tone set.
And so much texture.
Yeah, It's just a beautiful image. I couldn't like it better, actually. And she has a fabulous posterior.
She does.
Yes. So she's actually a fitness model. I've forgotten which, but she's been in fitness magazines posing because of her physique. Now, the lighting on this one was there were 2 windows in the room that she's facing, and it was natural light coming in there. It was near sunset, so that's where we're getting some of the warm tones in the ceiling. Mm-hmm. And then I had a LED constant light in the corner of the room to her left, which is giving the kind of the rim light around her left. And it was set to a colder temperature. It was actually a light that you could adjust the temperature.
Oh, I love those.
And then it was a single strobe camera right, and then some natural light coming in. This was an old barn, and the doors to the barn were to the left. So it's natural light, kind of her back left and front right, and then artificial light the other 2 directions.
You're making that sound a little effortless, but that's a whole lot of diverse light sources and sun that's changing all by itself, and it's all balanced quite nicely.
So the blue is coming through the barn doors.
The blue on the floor is actually coming from that LED light inside the room.
Got it. Okay. The same one that's on her thigh.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, let me tell you, it's working.
Yeah. I was very pleased when when I saw this on the back of the camera.
I'll bet you were.
Yeah.
I wonder what type of workout she does.
She does the kind that takes probably most of her adult life to maintain.
Yes.
And I just couldn't do that. I have too many things to do.
I have too many vices too.
So I brought this picture up only because I know everybody wants to work with this gold and silver paint at some point in their career, and I've heard that it's a terrible mess. So hopefully you tell the story.
Yes, it is a terrible mess. So this is actually, it is real gold flakes mixed with Wesson oil.
Okay.
And you then paint it on the body. The challenge is if the model is to touch themselves, it will leave a mark, and so you have to go touch it up. Anything they touch will turn gold. So it is very messy, and you have to have them pose. Hold your arms slightly, not touching each other. All right, just so it's sometimes very difficult for them to pose because it's unnatural for them to hold their hands and legs away from their body.
I'll bet.
Yeah, I bet that would be difficult. Sounds like a challenge that I'd be up for someday.
I mean, it is beautiful in what it can do, but man, I have heard some horror stories of, people, the model instinctually grabs camera and,
after every one of these shoots, I always have, my camera is gold. The lights are gold. There's gold all over every fixture in the studio.
Nice.
It is a mess, but I love the result.
It's a really neat image for sure, and I do really like the gold. The shimmery, just generally, I really think is a very interesting look.
Right, and this one is very just 2 soft boxes, each 45-degree angle. Camera left, camera right, to get the highlights on the body.
And then just a straight up black background or a felt background.
It's actually a felt background, yes. Right.
Yeah, it's amazing how felt will suck up light.
Right. And I've tried using like black seamless, and not nearly as nice of an effect. I highly recommend the felt velvet background.
So 3 very, very nicely toned females. This is 3 of them, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I had to clarify, but I was pretty sure.
And they did have a variation in skin tone.
I can see that. I like that you centered the whitest one, which will almost always be me, in the center.
I too am the reference for white.
Yes.
So, well, she kept saying she was the fairest of the fair.
I got to imagine the casting call on Model Mayhem. I need people that are really, 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 really light and really dark and really in the middle.
Right. Well, actually, I knew all three of these, and had kind of picked them based on this skin tone.
All three of these models.
Yes.
All three of these skin tones.
Yeah.
I just knew the skin tone.
I often keep a skin tone index of my friends.
I'm sorry I had to throw that out there. Give you a hard time, Craig. I know I don't know you very well.
That's fine. Absolutely fine.
So this looks like it's kind of a hybrid of things. The torso looks like body paint.
Everything is milk.
Really?
And it is a composite of approximately, I believe I used somewhere between 18 and 24 different images composited together to get this look.
Really? Jinx, Brian.
So this was actually part of a workshop on doing milk dresses done by a gentleman that runs a website called Arium Light, AURUM. And he was doing a workshop in LA, and I went down to LA to participate in this workshop. And I can't pronounce his name. It's Polish and has about 14 consonants in it.
We'll try and get that into the show notes so other people can not pronounce it properly.
So anyway, this was at the workshop. He had the models there. He demonstrated in the morning, and then we got to do it ourselves. And this was the photographer I worked with here was the model photographer I share the studio with, and that was in the second photo we talked about. She and I went to this workshop, and so I would direct her on where to throw the milk, and then I would snap the picture.
And the model has a smile on while she's getting milk thrown at her.
So we do one image without any milk to get the pose.
Okay.
And then the model can move somewhat throughout the rest of it. Still has to keep the basic shape to the body, but can move somewhat.
Okay.
And then different techniques to get, the top of the bodice there, to get it to fan out to be a skirt. A whole bunch of different techniques for throwing the milk to get those various effects. And then you select small pieces of the milk from each of those and composite them all together into a single image. I had about a little over 30 hours of Photoshop in this one.
Wow. It seems like you would get milk in places you don't want in order to get that look.
Well, milk's all over.
Yeah, talk about messy.
Yes. So she's standing in a kiddie pool to capture most of the milk. And we would actually then reuse it. I think. Well, see, I've done a couple of these since then, and I have yet to finish editing the images. But used about 4 gallons, 3 to 4 gallons of milk.
Not too bad.
I have thought for years that it would be a lot of fun to have a separate metal building on the property with heated floor in it for doing wet work. Run the whole thing on 12 volts so you don't kill anybody, and just a place where you can get the paint and the water and the milk everywhere without killing everyone involved.
Yeah, this image just makes me want to really have a cheesy joke about crying about spilt milk, but I really just can't think of anything that's that clever to do with that, so I just thought I'd mention.
The biggest challenge with this is actually a few days later, getting the smell out of the studio.
Oh yeah.
I'll bet.
That is an issue.
That's got to be something terrible.
So this next image, I just love the red rock, although I'm sure it's post-production or something.
No, actually, that was the color of the rock.
So is this like in Sedona or?
This is right outside of Red Rock, Nevada, which is about 40 minutes out north of Las Vegas.
All right, field trip.
Yeah. Well, it kind of looks like you matched the rock to a specific portion of her body.
I did not do any changes to the rock. This is,
I think what
out of camera.
I think what we're seeing there is that the red rock is reflecting a lot of red light, and then it just takes the color tones of whatever you put with it and sort of merges.
Like her eyelids and even a little bit of her lips, and then, like I said, the other portion.
She has a really seriously beautiful body.
Yes, she does.
She does.
Yeah, just a lovely, lovely shape. I was looking at her portfolio and thinking, I'm going to be going back to Vegas. I might have to.
Now, what you can't see in this is her eyes are just really stunning.
Really?
Yes. She's actually known more for her eyes than anything else.
Very interesting.
As a married model, I've been surprised with how many of the models shoot with their wedding rings on, even if they have nothing else on.
That's quite interesting, and I did not catch that.
Well, it's been in 2 of the pictures.
So she's not naked. I feel gypped. No, I can't. No, that's wrong on many levels.
It also looks like that when she's crawling into that cave, you wonder, well, I wonder what's living in here.
Right. We did check for snakes in most caves that she crawled into.
Oh, that's good.
Yes. Yeah.
Very thoughtful.
Well, gotta look out for your model.
One of the things that I like about this, I'm guessing this has very little post-production.
It does, very, very little.
And I love that. There are some pictures that simply require a lot of love, but I love it when you can go, no, this is what it was, and
those are often my favorite.
Yeah,
right.
I'm a big believer that if you've done post-production and I can walk up and go, wow, that picture's had a lot of work, then you've done too much.
Right. I like it to be, where you can't tell for sure whether it's been done or not.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But yeah, this one was almost straight out of camera.
That's great.
Nice. So, it's the back end of the podcast. We're over the halfway point. Over the hump, as it were.
Yeah.
This is great. I love how a couple of the girls are pushing their knees up so that you get some height on there.
My butt looks better than your butt, so there.
And others have a little bit more or less volume.
Right. So, wanted it to kind of rise from the front towards the back. So
it's like waves.
Yes.
No, that's the funny thing is when I looked at this, I was like, it's like the ultimate sand dune shot, sort of.
Exactly.
It's really cool. And again, you have all those skin tones that are just ready for you to just pick out.
Right. So this was the same 3 as the other shoot. This was a different day. So those same 3 models plus 2 additional.
Yeah, how many models do you have get to list 5, or how many pictures do you get to list 6 different?
Yeah, I was actually surprised Model Mayhem would let me do that. I'm not sure what the limit is. But.
There probably some programmer somewhere went, I guess it does work. Our last image is, I really...
appropriate. It's appropriate.
Well, it
for the
is
last
appropriate.
image.
There seems to be a theme here, yes.
I really like this image a lot.
I absolutely love the gold on the black.
So this was my favorite image of 2012, and this I had this in mind when we were going to go shoot there. I had scouted out the location and knew what we were going to do. The timing of it, though, it was actually quite busy in the park. So I took a total of 5 frames in about a 15-second period.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Just all there is to it.
When you say you took 15 frames,
what? 5 shots in 15 seconds.
Just click, 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 click.
Really?
Click,
and then all of a
done.
sudden, okay, and then she covers up.
Right.
Huh. It's like those flash nudity.
Yeah,
where
you run out into the traffic or something.
Exactly. You run out. You have 20 seconds max. You walk through, pose, done. Cops can't come.
It is just a matter of time before we see a news story about some photographers getting sued because he put some naked girl in traffic for a minute and, some family from Guatemala got run over or something because of somebody rotating their neck around.
Well, luckily no traffic here, so.
That is our portfolio review, and fantastic. I have to tell you, it was really hard. We normally cut down to about 10 pictures, and we just did 14, and we tried to keep the pace a little quicker so we could get through that. And your portfolio is just delightful.
Well, thank you very much.
I was very impressed with the images as well and would love the chance to shoot with you someday.
Well, I will be coming down that way quite often in the next few years. So
Fantastic.
Well, let me
I'll have to
know.
hook up. Yep, absolutely.
You know my model name, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. For anyone who doesn't know, my model Mayhem account is Ava Cali. AVACALI. There's my plug.
Oh, thank you. Right, Roxanne, why don't you promote yourself?
Yes, thank you. I don't think I've mentioned it yet, so.
On a nice side note, I've been getting these alerts from meetup.com that you have been running some workshops for the This Week in Photo meetup group.
Yeah, that's correct.
How are those going?
Well, they've been going really well. I've actually been fairly busy and not being able to do as many as I'd like, but so we did one with the Sparks, and everybody loved that one. We've done a couple. We did a photo walk. We did some where we did smoke, incense smoke. So no models involved, but and light bulbs, the filament burning on the light bulb, capturing the smoke coming off of that.
Very cool.
So, but we're going to be doing one of the gold painted models. That's been a request. And I am working on getting water in the studio so we can do some water shots.
You have successfully managed to schedule those on top of either us doing the podcast or my having to go work and do another job. I keep going, yeah, it's not going to happen.
Oh.
On to picks of the week. I'm gonna take the first run at it here. And my pick of the week is a brand, or a line, I should say, of flash remotes. We've all looked at pocket wizards and things, and honestly, a lot of photographers would rather shell out some money on a new lens than a set of pocket wizards, because by the time you want to run 6 or 7 strobes, that's big money. And I have been really impressed with the Young Nuao line of strobes and remotes coming out of China. They are a budget brand, and the particular part that I would like to focus people on is their remotes. And they can be seen there, the RF603. They make either a Canon or a Nikon line. And what makes them special compared to all of the other El Cheapo triggers, the Young Nuaos understand that your flashes go to sleep, and they understand when you pull down halfway on the trigger, they send out a signal and wake up all your strobes, which is tremendously helpful. They're not dedicated, but they're good quality, just a very nice design. They also don't have a transmitter and a receiver. They are all transceivers, so you just grab them out of your bag, pop them on, and away they go. They multiple channels. They're a whopping $15 a piece, so you can actually afford to fire off, 7 or 8 of these things.
Wow.
That's a great one.
Yeah, it is. Now you said they were Nikon and Canon specific. Are they doing like the ETTL
They're not
signals? Or is that just for the wake up?
They just do the wake up. They don't do ETTL just yet. You're going to have to spend real money if you want that.
Right.
But if you pair that, a lot of us pair that with some classics or older flashes that you can pick up cheap that you're manually adjusting power on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great way to get some light remotely. Again, good quality, good price. And next week, I'm going to actually walk through their brand of flashes. I own a couple of different ones, and they actually have some flashes that are fairly designed to be dedicated remotes, and they're also very reasonably priced, but seem to be built quite well.
Well, I'm going to have to give that a try, because I've quite often lost a pocket wizard along with the flash in the surf or in water or something, and so having a cheap remote's always
There is a time and a place. I am building some underwater enclosures for flashes. And let me tell you, I don't want to put a set of pocket wizards underwater going, I hope that doesn't leak.
Exactly.
What do you got for us, Roxanne?
Well, this week I've done something a little bit different, and I think it's going to be part of a series that I'm going to start. Every model and photographer should really have an emergency backup kit, whether it's the first supply or the second, meaning you really need these things. And if you don't have them already, you should have more than one.
You mean models might forget stuff?
On occasion.
I'm shocked.
The first couple of things that are a must at each shoot is Band-Aids for mishaps and lip gloss, which is always helpful, especially when you're looking for that natural look. I tend to shy away from that, unfortunately, but I think the natural look is really good in some instances.
Now, you may be shocked to hear this, but I don't use lip gloss much.
Huh.
How does a mere photographer shop for lip gloss? Is this something that you can kind of just get a generic item, or are girls picky?
No, if it's a backup supply for a model, as a photographer, you can basically choose whatever brand you choose. I mean, the cheap ones, the Wet n Wild, that works great.
So I'm guessing that since this is a sort of personal contact item, you buy the cheap one, you leave it in the package so that she knows that they haven't been on somebody else's lips.
Yes.
And
although some girls might like that.
Yeah, but I don't want to talk to the ones that aren't.
I'm just teasing.
And then you say, congratulations, you own it when you're done.
Like you do with swimsuits often.
Yeah, I do that with swimwear too. I always have a giant bag of swimwear.
I do as well, yes.
What you got for us, Craig?
So mine it's something called Cam Ranger. It is a device that you plug into the side of your DSLR, and it allows it to have wireless capabilities, and you can control your camera then from either an iPhone or an iPad, iOS device.
Really?
And you can do live view on it. You can change all the settings in the camera and take your pictures remotely using it. So when I'm doing a far away shot, I will often, I can go stand in the frame and take pictures to get everything dialed in.
All right. And the big question is, how much is this going to cost me?
It is $299.
That's not bad.
That isn't. Yeah. I was expecting a lot worse.
In the studio that I'll be building next year, we're planning on putting a position for a remote camera up in the rafters.
Mm-hmm.
And
this would be a great
perfect
solution for controlling that.
Because let me tell you, I looked at the Canon solution, and it caused my heart to have palpitations.
Well, most of them are not cheap, but this one, it works very well. I use it both on location and in the studio. If I have somebody I'm doing shoots for in the studio, I'll give them the iPad, and then they can just see every shot I'm taking and comment on them. It's like shooting tethered, but without having to have that cable hanging around.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Craig, for everything that you've put into this podcast and this day today, meeting with us and showing us your beautiful artwork. We've really appreciated your time.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
If you'd like to send us feedback as listeners, please email us at modelphotographysshowcase@gmail.com. We'd love to have listener mail to share in our podcasts. And Brian, how can we support the show as a listener?
Well, as you know, we love it when you use our Amazon links to help support us financially, but we are going to do a little call out. We need a little help. It turns out that iTunes does not list your feedback until you have a significant amount of it. So we're going to ask anybody that has a few minutes to pop on over to the iTunes store, look up the podcast, give us a rating, give us a review. 5 stars, really positive. Oh, wait. I don't know where that came from.
I didn't hear anything.
But it really will help us to get a larger, more critical mass audience. Not that we don't love you guys just like you are, but we'd like you to have more friends.
Please support us in that way, because your biggest support for us will be listening and sharing this with your friends.
What's going to be the best way to get a hold of you, Craig?
My website, craigcolvinphotography.com. All things Craig are linked to through that. So
Excellent. And I presume Model Mayhem profile a good second for the models.
exactly. And that's
Perfect.
listed there as well.
Excellent.
All right. Well, a big thanks to everyone for listening again. And we appreciate all the time you spend with us. And like I said, please visit us and give us a 5-star rating. I saw Brian's look on that. I think that's going to be edited out. I kind of stumbled over my words.
We will catch up with everyone next week. Keep on clicking.